We'll sound fine.
I may sound good. I don't know about content.
Oh, trust me, we're gonna get content today.
They'll make content.
Wait till you find out what Tim's got for questions,
There
and
you go.
then you'll be like, "Wait a minute, we have content."
That'll be questions.
Get your earballs ready. Welcome to the Greg and Tim Show podcast. Take time to sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Here are your hosts, Greg and Tim.
Well, we should welcome everybody.
Welcome back to
show.
the Greg and Tim Show. Once again, I'm joined by my fellow podcaster. You know what? I heard it was called a pod. Do you know that?
I've never heard
The
it called.
cool kids now don't call it a podcast anymore.
They call it pods.
They call it they call it a pod.
the pod.
Just say pod.
We're on a
Don't call it
pod.
when you say podcast, you're old. That's what I learned.
I'm old.
Well, you are old. Anyway, today we're honored to welcome a dedicated public servant and a community leader to the show, Markus Chambers, the deputy mayor of Winnipeg, known for his tireless work on public safety, diversity, and community engagement. Markus has been a strong voice at City Hall, advocating for a more inclusive and connected Winnipeg.
Like connecting it like a puzzle.
Yeah, he's the one that brought Transcona into the city. Oh, that was better. That was
a long time ago.
From champion youth programs to tackling some of the city's most pressing issues, he brings both passion and purpose to his role.
Yep.
In this conversation, we dive into his journey, the challenges faces Winnipeg today, and what drives him to keep building a better future for all Winnipeggers. Welcome to the show, Markus.
Councillor Chambers.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here today, and just share.
Yeah, for sure.
So we always start with a question. We're going to kind of push it back a little bit because you showed up wearing all Raiders gear, Raiders hat, Raiders sweater. So we know you make questionable life choices first. But
I changed to my. This is actually the Las Vegas Raiders show now.
Is it?
Yeah, like, we changed the logo and everything. It's
we're the bad boys of podcasting.
We are the bad boys of podcasting. In the black hole.
So
we should paint this wall black.
Black and silver.
Then it would be black and silver. Oh,
Black and
silver. Oh, that would look good silver, right? Right? Yeah.
So when you came to the door and I answered the door, I called you Markus, as in Markus Allen, who's a longtime Raider. They played for them for many years. And you said, funny story, and I cut you off because I thought this might be a good story to start the show with.
I was born Mark Anthony Chambers,
Okay.
and in high school, around 1982, that was when Markus Allen was emerging as, just graduating from USC and had played with the Oakland Raiders at the time, and everybody started calling me Markus. And
really?
It was around the time that my football career started to emerge, and everybody started calling me Markus, and it just stuck all through university and till present day.
Wow.
So I had it legally changed, and now I'm Markus. And I think the only people that call me Mark are from high school if they haven't, hung around me in recent times. I can tell who knows me for how long based on what they call me.
And that's why it's Markus with a K.
Markus with a K, correct. Which is also European.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is Markus Allen Markus with a K?
He is with a C.
With a C, okay.
Yeah. I wanted to be a little bit different.
You wanted to have your own personality.
Put my mark on it.
Because, of course, you're European. I clearly see that now.
Well, actually, I was born in the UK.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah. So
You're just stepping in everything today, aren't you?
I tried to make it a weekly occurrence anyway.
Last week he made a mistake or two, but I edited it out, so it's
It reemerges once again.
But that's the beauty of editing. We can edit everything out.
So this is why it's so great to have people in here because we knew you as a deputy mayor of Winnipeg, but now we know you're a bit of an athlete. So you had a career before you were a politician. You're in sports. So can you tell us about that?
yeah, we emigrated here to Canada in 1967. So as mentioned, I was born in the UK. My parents are Jamaican, and they met on the way to England to do their post-secondary education. Got married, had all of his kids there, and then we immigrated here in 67. My father said to Canadians, what do you do during the wintertime to keep your kids busy?
Right.
And hockey was the natural answer. So I started playing hockey at age 4 or 5. Ran track through high school, and it was while running track and playing soccer that somebody said, why don't you play football? And I'd always been playing football with my friends, just pick up and things like that. But
Right.
I said, I'm a $1.05 soaking wet. I'll get creamed up there. And the person said, they won't even touch you. You're so fast. So I said, yeah, let's try it out. And I went out and tried out for the junior football team, the Winnipeg Hawkeyes, made the team, and took off from there, playing university sports as well, and having a good time. Reflecting back, had to try it with the Bombers. Met some very interesting people that are still lifelong friends, and realized that at my height and at my size, professional sports was probably not in my future, but had a good time during the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember, so my first memory of you was when you worked with my mom.
Correct. Yeah.
Way back in the day. You guys were, if I remember correctly, her desk was here, and over the divider was your desk. And every time I'd come in, I was a kid back then, so I was much younger, but you must have been a child as well working there, because you're not that much older than me. But I always remembered chatting with you, and the one memory that I have from a childhood from the Bombers, and this is probably when I was a very young Bomber fan, like probably not into it as much as I am now. But my mom said, "Oh, Markus knows Willard Reeves."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, that's the running back." And she's like, "Yeah, he knows him, and he's got a poster for you."
That's right. Yeah.
And you gave me a poster that was signed after he got his world record, or his CFL record for rushing yards, I believe, in a season.
2,000 yards. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my first memory of you, is because, and made me become a bigger Bomber fan too, because all of a sudden now I'm like connected and I know who's in the Bombers.
Well, and Willard and I have been friends for over 40 years now.
Oh, wow.
And his son, Ryan, who plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs now,
Yep.
is born on my same birthday.
Okay.
And I'm his godfather. So it's been fantastic in terms of, the interactions we've had in both of our kids' lives.
Yeah.
He's been very influential in my son's lives as well. And I've had the opportunity to be in his son's lives. The two boys, Ryan and Jordan,
Yep.
they grew up just down the street from Bruce and the Oak family.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Scott Oak.
Yeah.
Who's the magician?
Darcy.
Darcy. So they grew up with the Oak boys.
Okay.
So, just seeing the relationship that they've had and seeing, what they went through with Bruce,
Yeah.
I can tell you that Jordan and Ryan are good men. And, they grew up in sports.
Yeah.
Jordan played for both Edmonton and Saskatchewan.
Yep.
And, of course, Ryan has had a great hockey career. But they both give back to their community. And I think, I've been able to provide that to them in terms of, they saw me working through the community. My own kids saw me working through the community. And now they all give back to the community as part of, being part of the city of Winnipeg or whatever city they're representing.
They're two of the Winnipeggers that are not liked, though.
Yeah.
As much as, like, if they played here, we would love them.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
They're one of those players that you're like, I would love to have them on my team, but I do not want to play against those guys.
So Ryan, but yeah.
Well, even Jordan when he played for Saskatchewan,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because, the rivalry's there. So, yeah. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's fine. So I'm used to it. So you kind of talked about giving back to the community, right? And that's one of my questions I had. For someone that really has a dedication to giving back to his community, who taught you that?
My parents. My my dad, both my parents, my mom and dad, were very big in terms of, volunteering in the community and giving back, volunteering their time. And I think it's something that all of us as kids kind of watched, kind of idolized and said, yeah, we need to, pick up where mom and dad left off. And mom and dad are still giving back to the community at 94 years old.
Really?
94.
Yeah, my dad
Wow.
is a retired minister.
Okay.
And still does, funerals and weddings. And as a matter of fact, 2 years ago, helped me officiate my older son's wedding.
Oh, wow.
My dad married my wife and I 32 years ago, and my son said, I want grandpa to be part of my wedding as well.
Yeah.
So it was very special to be part of that. But as I said, my parents gave back. My father started a church and made sure that he was out there, bringing kids to Sunday school. I drove the church bus, bringing
Yeah.
kids to Sunday school. My mother, again, very much committed to the community as well. So I think all of us as kids got that gene and
Yeah.
gave back to the community. As a matter of fact, my younger son, at the age of 22, organized with his buddies and collected 30,000 pounds of food and clothing and donated it to Siloam Mission and Main Street Project. And it was called Caring Connections.
Okay.
At 22, I wasn't thinking about, being that, giving back to the community in that way.
Yeah.
He and his buddies drove around the city, collected items, and like I said, rented a van, packed it all in the van, and drove it down to the Mission District for donation. So again, it's great to see. As a parent, that's
Yeah.
what you want to see. So,
Yeah, for sure. So you started out working with the province of Manitoba, right? Would that be considered your first career job that you?
yeah, I mean, while I was in university, and again, not having this dad bod that I have now, but
Trust
being
me,
a little bit
some
more
of us have it worse than others.
being a little bit more athletic,
Yeah.
I started working at the Seven Oaks Center for Youth,
Okay.
and then was able to parlay that into my stint with Family Services with Income Assistance Program. And then, as I got more comfortable with the government, got into policy analyst. And then in 2001, moved over to the Department of Labor and Immigration, where I worked for the last 17 years of my career with the province, managing the provincial nominee program or the provincial immigration program.
Okay.
So that was a fabulous opportunity. It allowed me to travel around the world
Yeah.
to recruit skilled workers and business investment back to our province. And having the opportunity to experience different cultures, different education systems, employment systems, languages, food.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal experience. And, I always, mentioned when I was doing presentations about the opportunities to give back to community because it
Yeah.
hastens in the integration.
Right.
When you find people that are like-minded and you're volunteering with them, it does open up doors here in
Mhm.
Winnipeg. I mean,
Right.
we all talk about Winnipeg being 1% of separation,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what it is when you're volunteering. So many immigrants that I know have come to our city and trying to find work, trying to find employment opportunities, or are working below the opportunities they had back home.
Hmm.
When you volunteer and you meet people, somebody's going to say to you, well, I know somebody looking for an accountant.
Yeah.
I can introduce you to so-and-so. And usually that's the way it works. It's who you know in
Yeah.
Winnipeg. So I always tell people or told people back in the day, volunteer, whether it's at your kid's school or sporting activity, volunteer. You'll meet people who will help you get connected.
But it's funny you talk about volunteering. I think you had said something to the effect of, like, we at our church.
Mhm.
I think you had said you'd gone there for a couple months and just didn't feel connecting. And
No,
you started-
years.
years.
Years,
And you
yeah.
just started volunteering. All of a sudden, it's just a wider community opens up to you. So
Absolutely.
different analogy, but the same kind of thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
Why don't we go back to the first question that we always ask people that we kind of backloaded? We didn't ask it, but we'll ask it now. Without saying what you do for a living, who is Markus Chambers?
I am a person that wants to help. I want to put myself out there. I want to make a difference in life. Again, there's that saying, those who have more should do more. I've been blessed throughout my life. Not too much adversity. As a matter of fact, when I took over as chair of the Winnipeg Police Board, I made a statement in saying, I haven't experienced the same thing as my brothers and sisters to the south,
Yep.
and I haven't experienced the same thing as our Indigenous population here.
Yep.
But I recognize the fact that racism exists
Mhm.
here in Canada and in the United States. And how do we overcome that? How do we work to ensure that people are feeling included, that people are treated fairly,
Yep.
and that we can all work together? And so recognizing that racism exists in policing, I set out to, make it better in the sense that we have to build trust and confidence back in policing. We have to get rid of the officers that are making, other officers look bad, right? Because the majority of officers that are out there are good people that are valiant people that want to make a difference as well.
Yeah.
But it's those that are,
bad apples
that are causing it, the bad narrative for the rest of them.
Yeah.
So as we work together, as we, increase transparency and accountability around policing, those are the things that I want to see that, will bring us together. For myself, it's about openness, transparency, and accountability. When I ran back in 2018, at the doors, I said to people, you may not agree with every decision I make, but I'm going to show you how I made that decision. Right. So it is about transparency. It's about accountability. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I want to say that I want to have the same friends coming out of this that I went into it with.
Yeah, that's true.
And that I made things just a little bit better.
Yeah. And the transparency thing is very important because you're in a position where you have to be accountable. But at the same time, you have to get things done.
Correct.
Right? So when things are getting done, we had Mayor Gillingham in your seat a couple months ago, and he was transparent with what he wanted to do and what he wanted to accomplish during his tenure as mayor. I think the biggest thing that we need to see as a community is the processes, right? Like what's happening, why is it happening, and when is it happening? And I think the biggest problem that there's been in politics is the transparency.
Lack of transparency.
Yeah.
And just in terms of an analogy, during the 2023 provincial election, Wab Canoe had a commercial where he was shooting baskets.
Right.
And on social
media. Was he making any of them though?
Well, the one commercial showed he made it. But the outtakes.
You were making them.
It was the outtakes. He showed how much he missed.
Yeah.
And again, he posted that on social media and people said, hey, this is great. I want to see somebody who's not perfect, but willing to show that.
Yeah.
And we all make mistakes as politicians. And I've said, I don't have the answers. As a matter of fact, one of my key mottos is, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah.
I want to be challenged. I want, those creative juices to flow.
Yeah.
But that's only if there's other people in the room challenging me, to think differently, to react differently, to, look at stimuli and say, well, you know what? I was going down this path, but this information came in and I have to course correct.
So I want to ask you, deputy mayor, the position of deputy mayor, is that an elected position? And what the heck does a deputy mayor do?
So it's not an elected position. It's an appointed position by the mayor. And it's on the basis of, if anything happens to the mayor, the deputy mayor steps in, as well as, for all of the events that the mayor is invited to, can't attend all of them. And in any given week, there's 30, 40 invitations, in a 7-day week.
Right.
Yeah.
So the deputy mayor is often, and then there's the assistant or the acting deputy mayor, who, if I can't attend on behalf of the mayor, it goes to the acting deputy mayor.
Who's the acting?
That's Janice Lukes.
Okay.
So, it is about process. It is in terms of making sure that we're out there supporting our community at different events and making sure that there's continuity in terms of if anything happens to the mayor. As a matter of fact, we meet on a weekly basis and we go over different issues and things like that. I'm still, Scott respects me, or the mayor respects me enough, that if there's a decision that I have to make with respect to a file, that I'm allowed to make that decision in the interest of my constituency.
Okay. So with you being the deputy mayor, you have been the deputy mayor through Mayor Bowman's term as well, correct? Was that for all 8 years that he was mayor?
I was deputy mayor. No, because I was elected halfway through his term.
Oh, okay.
So I was deputy mayor under Bowman for 2 years,
Okay.
and then acting deputy mayor for 1 year.
Okay.
And then I started off as acting deputy mayor with Mayor Gillingham, and have been asked to serve as deputy mayor just starting this year. So
you had to prove yourself to Mayor Gillingham.
I guess so. Yes. and with Mayor Gillingham, we are so aligned in terms of our vision for this city. Again, he's a retired minister as well.
Yep.
So our values align very well as well. So I have a lot of confidence in his skills and abilities as he does in mine.
So I'll ask then the question I asked to Scott when he was in the room.
We can call him Scott too.
Oh,
so,
there you go.
Yeah.
Mr. Gillingham, whatever you'd like.
Mayor. His worship.
His worship.
Yeah.
With the pipe. Yeah, that's a great picture. So I asked him, because we have friends in our group, whether they're a church, whether they're believers, who feel that they would never want to get into politics. And the reason is because because today's world, you're not allowed to have those Judeo-Christian values in the position that
Crossover,
right?
Separation of church and state.
Separation of church and state. Do you find that you have to leave some beliefs in your own house to govern the city, or help govern the city? And just kind of explain that and how you kind of think through that process.
Yeah, absolutely you do. I mean, it's on the basis that you're elected to serve the people, right? And so there are times where my personal beliefs come into play, but I have to look at the interest of the city and the people that elected me to serve. And as a result, there are decisions that, I make that would go against how I was raised.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it is an evolution. It's about learning. And it's about being adaptable.
Right.
Again, I have to look at the best interest of the city and the best interest of the constituents that I serve. And if that happens to go against the way I was raised, so be it.
So if you were to, so I understand that part, and I understand, you have to do what's best for the city, but what's best for the city, you also have to look at what is best for you inside as well, right? Like you have to live with your decisions and that type of stuff. Do you find that struggle? Like, do you have like this pull?
It is a dichotomy.
Yeah,
it is. And so again, I have to go back to, again, what is the will of the populate?
Mm-hmm.
The people that vote me into office.
Yeah.
And again, is it part of an evolutionary growth?
Okay.
Right. So again, I'm not in a position, or I'm not here to judge people.
Yeah.
I'm I'm here in this role to, make things better for our city.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So again, from an inclusion standpoint, I want to make sure that everybody feels welcome.
Yep.
Everybody feels included and valued.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So again, it's how I do that, and how I can reconcile that with my upbringing.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it's not about being judgmental. It's about, again, evolving as a person and having the capacity to not judge people.
Yeah.
And to be open with people.
Yeah.
Right. It may not be for me.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to, ridicule you or anything like that. Again, in terms of my upbringing, the Bible tells us to be, not to be judgmental.
Yeah.
Judge yet lets you not be judged.
We have a saying in our church, which is LAUGH, which stands for love, accept, forgive.
Yeah.
Right. So, you're loved no matter what, you're accepted here no matter what, and you're forgiven. Right. So that is kind of the I guess mindset, that if you have that mindset and you can accept people for where they are and what they're doing, you can also be accepted as well, right?
Well, and that's the premise of it. I mean, it is about, so when we got here in 1967, there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me here in Canada. And so it was about that acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And if people can accept me, for who I am and what I look like, then I should be able to accept them for who they are and what they look like.
Yeah.
So backing up, when you say we came in 1960s, how many brothers and sisters came?
So
from
I
England?
was actually born a twin. I had a
Okay.
twin sister who passed away just before our first birthday, but I've got 4 older sisters and an older brother. I'm the baby.
Oh, wow.
And even with my twin sister, I was the baby as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. 4 older sisters.
Yeah.
That must have
Which
been-
helped out. When I started dating, hey, I was daddy smooth. You know, my sisters, they taught me a lot. My older brother, I mean, we're a very close family. I mean, we still, you know, get together on birthdays and holidays, and you know, it's at one person's house this week, one person's house next week. During the summertime, our patios. Who's doing patio night on Sunday? You know, is the common theme. So we're a very close family.
Are you all still in Winnipeg?
I've got one in Edmonton, one in Toronto, but the rest of them live here.
And
then
your
with my
parents
mom and
also
dad.
being
Yeah.
in Winnipeg as well.
Mom and dad are just in Southdale.
Okay.
And it's, 6-minute drive from my house.
Nice.
And, like I said, they're still in their home.
Yeah.
They're still active on their computers and laptops, although don't click that link, you know.
He has
But,
to tell me that too.
but
There's a lot of links you shouldn't be clicking.
It's so blue.
but they're very independent. And we're very blessed to still have them in our life.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And especially to have that family dynamic that's stuck around the city. Yes, you have 2 siblings that have left for, not so great places in Edmonton and Toronto, but, we'll love, accept, and forgive them for what they've made in their choices.
Absolutely. I mean, 67 was also the year the Leafs won their last Stanley Cup.
That is very true.
back to-
So
maybe I've been a jinx.
you're not a Leafs fan though, are you? No. Jets?
Well, like I said,
Kinda.
Ryan
Plays
is playing for the Leafs, so
Oh,
I got to show him some love every now and again.
it's like a dagger. It's like a dagger into my...
So you moved here when you were how many years old?
I was 3.
You're 3.
Yeah.
So what was your first memory of Winnipeg? Remember?
snow this high.
Okay.
I was probably,
That high, yeah.
but cognitively, I remember. So my father, when he came here, was an electrician and he worked for CN. I remember living in Transcona until 1974, and we built a house in East Kildonan, and I lived there till 89 when I moved out. But my first memories of we came Good Friday, March 24th, 1967. There was
The anniversary's coming. Oh, you just passed.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So 58 years here in Canada.
Wow.
My parents are celebrating their 70th wedding anniversary
Wow.
later on this year.
Wow.
But there had been a blizzard prior to Good Friday, so there was a lot of snow in the city of Winnipeg. But
The wrong time to come.
well, as a matter of fact, my father came in January ahead of the rest of us,
Right.
Yeah.
and
And he thought to himself, this is a good place.
It's a little surreal. We were in England. He had no interest in coming to Canada.
Right.
It was his friends. I actually interviewed him during Black History Month, and it was an article that was posted in one of the black magazines. But he talked about not having any interest in coming here to Canada,
Right.
Yeah.
but filled out the application, while he was waiting for his friends.
Okay.
He had driven them to Liverpool to complete the application.
Yeah.
And he was the only one that got a response from the Canadian government
Right.
because he was an electrician. He was in trades.
Yeah.
And that's what they were looking for.
Yeah.
And at the time, back in the 60s, Winnipeg was the 4th largest city in Canada.
Yeah.
And so he said he wanted to find a city where he could work and provide for his family. And they said Winnipeg.
Yeah.
But they didn't tell him about the snow and the cold. Right?
But he
So,
came in
They try to
January.
leave that stuff out.
but when I went overseas as an immigration officer,
Yeah.
I would never sugarcoat or soft sell the winter here in Winnipeg.
No.
It's something that you acclimatize yourself towards. But when I look at, say, Bangkok, Thailand, just last week that had that earthquake,
Yeah.
we don't have that here.
We don't.
We don't
Yeah.
have tornado. Well, we have tornadoes
We
every.
don't have alligators.
We don't have alligators. We don't have hurricanes that come through.
Venomous
Things like-
snakes.
It gets cold,
Yeah.
but we still have our house.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, there's a lot of other places you can live where you're paying extra insurance because of wildfires or floods or hurricanes,
Or you're not
earthquakes,
insured at all for that
or
kind
you're
of
not
stuff.
insured at all.
I-
So,
Yeah.
I have a friend that came over from Nairobi, and after a while, he got a job getting people in. He'd always. So he had one lady who just stayed it was in January, and she just stayed on the plane, and she walked like 2 steps off, and she turned around, got her seat. She refused to come. No, you have to come.
You have to get off the plane.
The problem is if you're from a country and you came from England, so it's cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
But you come from a warmer country, and you say it's really, really cold. You have no context.
Yeah.
And at 3, I didn't really have any choice.
Yeah. Exactly. You didn't have too much choice.
Well, and it's like Texans, they're like, don't come in the summer. It's really, really hot.
Yeah.
We don't have any context to how hot that is.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hot. Even we get hot here.
Yeah.
But they're frying eggs on the street.
And I was mentioning that I was in Dallas Fort Worth last week for a conference, and there was folks up from Laredo, Texas, that were saying that it was 109 degrees there already.
Yeah.
And this is April.
Yeah.
Right. So again, we don't have context for that heat.
Yep.
We have context in terms of how cold it can get. But again, even when it's minus 40, you're not outside. You're in your heated house under a blanket or wearing 15 sweaters.
And my friend in San Antonio they have an outdoor pool,
Mm-hmm.
and it's year round, but they only really use it in the summertime.
Right.
We went and visited him in March, 2 years ago, I believe it was. And we got there, and my kids are fairly young. My kids at the time were 9 and 7. And we get there, and it's about 20 degrees, 22 degrees outside. And my kids are in shorts and a t-shirt. And he's like, you guys are crazy. It's cold out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, Bart, isn't the pool open? And he's like, yeah. He's like, but it's cold because they don't heat their pools.
Okay.
Because they're all cement pools. They're not the same as here where they have liners. So they don't heat their pools because the heat will heat their pool.
Yeah.
And he's like, but it's not heated. And I'm like, that's fine. Whatever. And he's like, really? And the kids jump in and they're swimming. He's like, I cannot believe this.
You got to show them one of our polar plunges.
Yeah.
Well, he does the cold plunge.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I did a cold plunge this morning.
Oh.
It was 1 degree.
Oh.
It was
You got to chip the ice before you.
I had to get rid of the ice first, and then I got
skin.
in, and I'm up to 2 minutes right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So
And I mean, therapeutically, it does wonders. I mean,
Yeah.
it takes down any swelling or anything like that. I had my hip replaced in 2022.
Okay.
football
Yeah.
injury, right?
Well,
Just
life
go with football injury.
football injury. But I mean, to play golf, it
Yeah.
was diclofenac, which is a topical, kind of like Voltaren.
Mhm.
I would take a pill form anti-inflammatory and then 2 Tylenol 3, and that was just for 9 holes.
Oh man.
And then would have to do another 2 Tylenol 3 at the turn.
Oh,
Had my hip replaced in 2022, and it's a night and day difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to do any cold plunges to reduce swelling or anything like that, but
No.
it's a night and day difference.
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits of Canada.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
just
right.
Step
Cold weather.
outside 6 months of the year.
Yes,
Dude.
well,
Well, that too, but I'm talking about the hip replacement.
Oh, yes, yes.
Doesn't cost you
Our
cost you $500,000.
our health services, and you know, it's I have to be completely honest and open. You know, our health services, I find, you know, there are people that will complain about it, but you know, my wife has recently been diagnosed with cancer.
Okay.
Sorry to hear that.
Caught it early, but Cancer Care Manitoba, I mean, incredible.
Mhm.
Absolutely incredible. Not only from the health science side of it, but also the emotional supports that you get. I
Mhm.
mean, for myself, my wife, my 2 sons, and our daughter-in-law, and our son's fiance, they've been incredibly supportive, and it's helped us get through a very dark period in our life.
Yeah. How's everything going?
I mean, we're still
Still battling right
still
now?
battling,
Okay.
but we're very optimistic. Very,
Fantastic,
very
yeah.
optimistic. Yeah.
That's great. Let's talk a little bit about the downtown, the core of Winnipeg. When I was 92, I was in high school, and the Portage Place had just opened up, brand spanking new. I think I shot freeze 3-point shots at the YMCA. Maybe I missed most of them, just like Wob. But you know, it was a happening place to be, and it seems flash forward to the 2020s, and it's
33 years.
just
yeah.
gone downhill.
Mm.
And a lot of the downtown core, people feel unsafe. A lot of people say it's dangerous, and it just seems like it's going the opposite direction. How do we get here? And what are your opinions of how we can kind of improve that area?
That's a really great question. And it seems that despite our best efforts, because it's not only been Portage Place, I mean, there's also the Hydro Building. It was built to bring people downtown. Canada Life Center, or Bell MTS Center, was built to bring people downtown. And, the WAG at Kamai York, again, developed to bring people downtown. And all of the multifamily that we've done. It's not just about 9 to 5, but it's about 5 to 9 as well. You don't want to roll up your sidewalks when office is closed.
Yeah.
And despite our best efforts, every building, every development that we've had in the downtown area has not been that silver bullet to bring people downtown. We got to reimagine our downtown and consider it as a neighborhood, not just a business zone. Right. So where we can build more accommodations for people and anchor it with a good grocery store, because it is a bit of a food desert downtown.
Gas stations too.
Gas stations and other amenities that keep people downtown, not just 9 to 5, but from 5 to 9 as well.
Right.
One of the big things that we've been struggling from the city of Winnipeg is getting our staff back in the offices, back downtown.
Yeah.
And I know you don't want to solve an economic situation with a human resources solution.
Yeah.
But it does speak to the circular economy, having people downtown and paying bus fare or parking or buying lunches or shopping during the daytime. It is part of the circular economy. It's also that aspect of crime prevention through social design, where you have that nucleus amount of people. Safety exists,
right?
Because people are looking out for one another.
Yep.
So that's what I want to see, is more and more people downtown. Anytime I'm downtown for Nuit Blanche, where there's 15, 20,000 people downtown, you feel safe.
Yeah.
You feel very safe. Anytime there's a Jet game or a Gold Eyes game or anything that brings people downtown, you feel safe. And that's one of the things that I want to get back to.
Yeah.
I also want to, from a safety perspective, reduce our crime severity index. I'm sick and tired of Winnipeg being announced as the crime capital of Canada.
Yeah.
We have to drive our crime severity down. And that's one of the instructions that we provided to the new chief of police that we announced just a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
And it's not rooted in how many arrests. It's the activities that you're doing to reduce violent crime.
Yeah.
So the province has been really good in providing funding for the Violent Retail Crime Initiative and making sure that retailers feel supported. But during this federal election, we also got to ensure that our voices are heard around bail reform, because it's a lot of individuals that are
just released back out into the system.
Exactly. Breach conditions and are causing these crimes.
Yeah.
So there's got to be stronger penalties, and then the actual work done to rehabilitate them while they're incarcerated.
Well, that's something you hear all the time. You hear people left of center saying you need to rehabilitate, and then people right of center saying, no, you need to be hard on crime. And I've always wondered, why is it one or the other? Why can't it be both? And my assumption is that costs too much money.
Well, there are some people that just can't be rehabilitated, right? So longer sentences are justified in that regard, because it becomes an issue of public safety.
Right.
But for those that maybe have made a bad decision or have been influenced by others, where we can go and actively work with them to have better outcomes, those are the ones that we should be working with. But it doesn't happen outside a structured institution, right? So it's the same thing that we're experiencing right now with mental health and addictions. Back in the day, there were institutions for individuals that were struggling,
right?
Yeah.
And those have all been closed, and we're seeing that manifested now in our streets.
And it's hurting.
It's hurting. Right. Yeah. So if we can get people the supports that they need, and sometimes it has to be mandatory, unfortunately,
right?
I think that would be better for society in general.
Are you talking about those companies that did those mental health services gone in Winnipeg, gone from the core, or gone from Canada? Educate me a little bit.
Or is the government not funding them anymore?
Government is not funding. So when you look at, say, from an addictions perspective,
Right.
How long is treatment? It's 30 days. Well,
Right.
why is it 30 days? Well, that's when insurance runs out typically,
Mhm.
right? But you're not to the extent that you're ever cured, but
Yeah.
30 days in treatment, you're
not
not anywhere
doing
near,
anything.
You're basically just getting
Sustainability.
through the shakiness
Exactly.
and the sweats, right?
Exactly. So the programming for that needs to be longer, right? And that's affordability issues.
Yeah. So the one thing with downtown that I find, and I'm going to speak from a resident of Winnipeg, is that when I go downtown, parking is extremely expensive now compared to what it was even 10 years ago. You used to be able to park at Portage Place. If you shopped in that mall, they would give you a voucher so that your parking was covered. Is there anything in like that kind of a mentality where it's like we need a better infrastructure to allow people to be downtown and to bring people downtown? For instance, we got the whiteout parties coming in.
Mhm.
The Jets just announced it today.
Yep.
They're going to do away games. They're going to do home games. They're going to do everything. It's going to be amazing. But when you go down there, you got to find parking. You got to fight the parking crowds. And it kind of gets a little bit overwhelming for some people that don't normally go downtown.
Well, transit.
Yeah.
You can take a transit bus, and we're working to make transit safer. We've
Mhm.
got our community safety officers on board buses.
So you guys have recently added more.
And we're adding 15 more.
Yeah.
So, transit safety is one of the things that's really important to us, but also that experience of safety on their transit buses.
Right. Yeah.
And so if there's opportunities to use that or Uber, so that you're not paying parking, and you want to enjoy a beverage or two, transit or Uber is the way to go.
And I would also add to that, if you're comparing downtowns, I mean, go downtown Chicago,
Sure.
see how much that
Yeah.
costs. Downtown Toronto, see how much that
Yeah.
costs.
Yeah.
Your availability of parking is probably less.
Very, very much. And I get that. It's what we're trying to do to grow, right? We're not Chicago.
No.
We're not Toronto. We don't have the draw to downtown, which we could, right? Like if you look at Chicago's downtown and what they've got going on in their river system and their downtown area, we could do that,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
And they're not without their faults.
Yeah.
They have very high crime
Chicago.
rates.
Yeah.
They have a lot of stuff going on there too. But when we had the mayor on here, he was talking about the Houston project that they had going on. Is there any other locations other than Houston right now that you're looking at to say, like, these guys are doing this, Houston's doing this city's doing this, can we incorporate what's working?
So again, part of last week in Dallas Fort Worth, I mean, it talked about trades and tariffs. I was there for NASCO, which is the North American Strategic Competitiveness Office, and it's all about the trade that happens between Canada, Mexico, and the United States.
Okay.
It was NASCO was developed out of NAFTA back in 1992,
Right.
And updated with CUSMA or the USMCA. Even though we talked a lot about trades and tariffs and whatnot, a lot of the conversation, because it was mayors and other stakeholders from different cities throughout that corridor into the United States and into Mexico, we were all talking about mental health addictions and the state of our cities. I didn't see a lot of homelessness in Fort Worth, Texas,
Right.
but the mayor of Arlington, Texas says, like, if you turn the block and go down half a street, you'll see it all.
Yeah.
And so Dallas is experiencing really bad homelessness problems as well. There was somebody from Kansas City. The mayor of Kansas City was there, and she was explaining, their homelessness problem is bad as well. So I think from every major city in North America is experiencing the same. It does vary depending on climate. I know that San Francisco is really bad. San Francisco.
You were just there.
Yeah. Victoria.
Friend, yeah.
Yeah.
A year ago, yeah.
Yeah, Victoria, BC, again, because of the climate, it's a little bit more amenable, not the extremes.
Yeah.
So they're seeing a lot of homelessness there.
Yeah.
Again, we have to figure out a way of supporting those that are struggling in our community with mental health and addictions. And whether that's, in an institutionalized setting, we've got to do something so that the rest of the population feels safe and can actually plan their lives.
And it's a housing thing as well.
Yeah.
I believe the mayor announced that they're going to be working on housing, so that would help. But housing doesn't help the mental side of things, and that's where you're looking at is where can we help that side?
Yeah, I mean, for the sustainability, I mean, you can take a person from an encampment and move them into a shelter, but is it sustainable? Do they have the supports that they need to make this go? Right. So, you know, we're seeing that in terms of policing.
Yeah.
If I can put that hat on very quickly, you know, we have now the ARC program, the Alternative Response to Citizens in Crisis, which pairs a police officer with a clinician, whether it's a social worker, a crisis worker, etc. And they're working to have a different outcome for individuals that, you know, it's not just a matter of seeing somebody acting out and going and arresting them.
Right.
It's about providing the supports that they need so that, you know, you're not having to call additional resources for them. Right. Because quite frankly, even though mental health and addictions is a provincial responsibility, so to speak, it's the greatest resources drain is on municipal government because they're calling fire, paramedic, police, right? So we're left with that bill, right?
They're leaving you with they're taking your resources and utilizing them.
I was speaking with the chief on Sunday, and he was mentioning, again, even though the province has put in institutional safety officers, officers are still spending the entirety of their shift at hospitals for that handoff. And it shouldn't be that way, right? So we got to figure it out so that officers are utilizing their time for what they were trained for, and increasing opportunities for crime prevention, not just reaction.
We saw this 4 years ago after the George Floyd incident, where you had half the people yelling defund the police, and the other half the group saying no, we need to educate the police, like you're saying earlier, right? And it just was this kind of snowball effect of this whole conversation. Some of it angry, and some of it was polite conversation. But like, what I'm shocked to hear that these programs in general, because we talk about mental illness, this is like the number one thing in today's society. It's affecting especially our young people. And to hear you say that programs are being cut back severely, like, that shocks me. And I just don't. Can you explain why?
Well, again, just the sheer volume. It's not just. I mean, if you look back to Syria, when government of Canada, from a humanitarian perspective, brought in Syrian refugees, and then over the last couple of years, Ukrainian refugees. They're coming from places that are war-torn, that they've seen some very traumatic experiences, right? And so you're dealing with that population in terms of the mental health,
right?
And then post-pandemically, you're dealing with individuals, Canadian kids and youth that didn't have the same high school experience or college experience. They weren't able to connect with their peers or family members.
Right.
The isolation that took place during the pandemic. So it's actually compounded in terms of mental health and wellness. And I think it's going to take years or at least a generation before we're seeing that subside in terms of the mental health and wellness of individuals in our communities. So the supports need to be there.
Right.
The supports need to be there. And I think governments are starting to realize that now.
So you think it's going the other way. It's come back.
Well, I'm hoping, again,
that's what you're working towards.
We don't want to create situations that have unintended consequences.
Right.
Right. So 2 years ago, I was out in Vancouver, BC for a conference, a policing conference. And the people that I'd met there were in positions like mine as chair of police boards. And one individual was from Surrey, BC, and she was talking about the fact that BC had legalized 2.5 grams of illicit drugs.
Mm-hmm.
They also have safe supply that LPNs can deliver to individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So in speaking with them, I asked, well, has the safe supply and the legalization of 2.5 grams of illicit drugs. And again, this is one of those issues that, you had asked earlier, whether decisions conflict with my
Your
upbringing.
beliefs, yeah.
That would be one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so the unintended consequences in BC for the LPNs is that the LPNs are getting mugged for that safe supply, not from users,
Right.
but by other dealers who can then turn around and say,
And sell
yeah,
it.
I got something safe. It won't kill you.
Yeah.
Right.
It's mob rules.
Exactly. The other part of it too, the 2.5 grams of illicit drugs. If I have 2.5 grams of illicit drugs and I'm busted for shoplifting, they get my wallet, my keys, my cell phone, and my 2.5 grams of crystal meth.
Yeah.
It's all cataloged and put into evidence, inventory as evidence. When I'm out on bail, somebody bails me out, I get my cell phone, my keys, my wallet, and my 2.5 grams of illicit drugs. It comes back to me. So police officers are asking, so we give him back his drugs and he ODs, who's liable?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a question that they're asking.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
So again, unintended consequences. So as government and as policymakers, when we're making these decisions, you got to think about everything, not just, okay, I want to fix this problem, but this problem is going to crop up.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to think about the unintended consequences. I'm not saying that it's wrong, but look down the line and see exactly what's going to become of it.
Yeah.
So
there's and I want to get off the downtown stuff in a second here, but this is my ignorance right now about downtown. Why downtown? Why is the homeless population downtown? Why is that the area? And I don't understand it myself because there's heavy policing. There's the downtown biz. There's all of the community enforcement officers, everything going on downtown to try to keep it the way, like clean and safe and something that people want to go to. Why downtown?
So anecdotally, I would say it's not downtown. I would say it's more of our riverbanks and walkways along our riverbanks.
Okay.
When I look at Vancouver and East Hastings, that's downtown.
Yeah.
Because it's the homelessness right against buildings.
Mhm.
Right. Here in Winnipeg, it's more along our riverbanks.
Okay.
But for instance, when I look at 300 Assiniboine Avenue, beautiful condo building that's right along the riverbank, and a homeless population is right there.
Right across the street, basically.
Right. If you look outside your window or outside your balcony, you're looking at an encampment.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
So if you're making a $500,000 investment on a condominium to live downtown, is that what you want to see?
Yeah.
So we get a lot of calls as counselors. I get a lot of calls as chair of the police board. My other colleagues that share downtown as part of their ward, they get calls all the time.
Yeah.
So we're also seeing it in playgrounds or parks or downtown parks where they're setting up, especially if there's trees, they're
Wherever
setting
you
up
can set up housing, basically.
set up tents and whatnot. But we're also seeing it in our suburbs. I've got Henteliff Park that is off of St. Mary's, basically across from the University of Manitoba. So I don't know if you know where Van Hall Estates is, but around that area, right? So there's homelessness in there. I've got homeless people that have taken up in the monastery forest on Pembina Highway, just on the west side of Pembina Highway, just on the outskirts of St. Norbert. Again, they feel it's safer there. They don't have individuals that could harm them.
Yeah.
If they're way out in the suburbs. So we are seeing, or we are experiencing, homelessness in the suburban areas as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to get into a different topic and get into more federal politics for a second. I know that you're not a federal politician, so I'm not going to hold you accountable. I don't even
play one on TV.
Exactly. Right now with the tariffs, but I just want to get opinions because I think your opinion is going to be more educated than a lot of others because you are within the political realm of, working with Bob Canoe a little bit, working with some of our federal politicians within the province. What are your thoughts right now on the tariffs and the USA? Obviously, the guy running the USA right now, Trump, is very polarizing, right? But what are your thoughts right now on how this will affect Canada, and can it actually be a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of narratives out there in terms of how it will impact Canada in the long term. For one thing, I know for sure is that the relationship will never be the same. And that's even if a Democratic administration gets in the next term. I just think with Canada's been around 157 years now.
Yeah.
United States, it'll be 250 years next year. They'll be celebrating their 250th anniversary. So, in Canada's 157 years, we have so many stories of how we've been there during, the Iran hostage situation where we helped Americans escape. 9/11, where planes landed in Gandor, Newfoundland. As recently as this past spring, or with the wildfires in California.
Yeah.
So we talk about the fact that Canada and United States have had this great relationship.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we feel attacked now because of these tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
The tariffs took place with a signed agreement, NAFTA or CUSMA or USMCA.
Yeah.
So it's about trust.
Yeah.
It's about how could they do this to us,
Yeah.
As the little brother, so to speak. And then the other side of it is all of the vitriol from the U.S. administration about Canada being the 51st state.
Yeah.
Very disrespectful to our sovereignty, right?
Yeah.
And calling, Prime Minister Trudeau Governor Trudeau. So it's going to take years before that relationship is repaired.
Yeah.
And to the extent it could be repaired to what it was before, I don't know.
Yeah.
You would probably argue the ends do not justify the means, that even if the ends are Trump wants to improve his economy, and he could be right, it could improve it, but it doesn't justify the means in which to do it, which is alienating a whole country that's been with you for so long. And that relationship isn't worth destroying that relationship.
Well, and it's not just Canada. It's Mexico. It's penguins.
Yeah.
That he's put tariffs on.
Yeah.
And so
not Pittsburgh.
Not
Pittsburgh. Crosby's safe.
Crosby's safe for now.
safe.
7 safe for
And
now. But it's our relationship, Canada and Mexico with the United States. Again, if we did this the right way, and I get it that he wants to strengthen the U.S. economy and wants to make them strong. But if you look at the stats, they're not doing that bad.
Yeah.
In the sense of, he's talking about a trade deficit, that the U.S. has a trade deficit. The U.S. does not have a trade deficit. If you look at it from a per capita perspective, the U.S. is doing very well from a trade perspective.
Yep.
Right. So, again, when you look at who he's aligned himself with in terms of Putin and Kim Jong-un in North Korea, Xi Jinping, you're wondering, like, we have NATO and we're all allies, but you've turned your back on NATO and have glorified these other world leaders that, again, doesn't show any love to Canada.
Yeah.
How did you, when you went to Dallas and you had in Fort Worth and you had the conference and you were expecting to talk about things like tariffs, etc., how did you transition from there to talking about homelessness? Like, what did you realize it was a bigger issue?
Yeah.
Or did they want to avoid the tariff talk?
It's part and parcel. I think it's going to create more poverty, more homelessness on both sides of the border.
Yeah.
Right. And that's organically how these conversations will start.
Right.
Is the fact that, with these tariffs that and reciprocal tariffs that Canada is putting on U.S. products, and Mexico is putting on U.S. products, it's going to create more poverty.
Yeah.
We've all heard the news stories of border towns basically the grocery store, there's no Canadians coming in to shop.
Yeah.
Right.
And one would argue that COVID
and-
was the catalyst for that. But
And I also heard from a business person actually today who said this was one of their busiest spring breaks of the last few years because people were coming in saying, I've canceled my trip to Grand Forks. I canceled my trip to Fargo. I canceled my trip across the border for anything.
Yeah.
And the dollar is horrible.
Yeah.
So like it's really expensive. But B, it's the optics of it, right? And Grand Forks is kind of the place is like, whoa, this isn't us. This isn't something we can control right now. We still want you guys to come here, but it's a dying city.
Well, so I sit on the Red River Basin Commission. The Red River Basin Commission is Minnesota, North Dakota, Manitoba.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the Red River that comes up and, flooding and farmlands and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So I was at a conference in Grand Forks end of March.
Okay.
2 weeks before I went to this one in Dallas.
Yeah.
And as it was a day there and next day come back. So a day and a half basically.
Yeah.
And as I got to the border to come back into Canada, there was no other cars behind me.
right.
Yeah.
The parking lots in the United States, I didn't see other Canadian license plates.
Yeah.
They've stopped going to Grand Forks.
Yeah.
And Grand Forks will suffer, right?
Yeah.
I also had a conversation with the Winnipeg Airport Authority, and we established flight routes to Denver, to LA, to Atlanta,
Yeah.
to
Atlanta's a
Chicago,
big one.
and huge.
Yeah.
But if there's an impact in terms of tourism to those destinations, they're going to cut back as well. So again, it is jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
So I should book my flights now to those places.
Yeah.
So
Well, you'll get a credit when they cancel them.
that's true. Maybe I'll just fly by myself.
Yeah, but can you do me a favor then? Can you work on getting a Jimmy John's in Winnipeg? Because that's the only reason why I go to Grand Forks right
we
now.
got Firehouse Subs.
Firehouse Subs is really good. It's very good, and so is what's the other one that's from the Qdoba?
Qdoba
is something down that we have now here, but Jimmy John's and Culver's.
Culver's, yeah.
I need one of each, and if you know a financier that wants to,
I need a Cheesecake Factory
and
What
a
about
Cheesecake Factory.
What about a Chick-fil-A?
Well, that's coming.
Or
that is coming.
Whataburger.
Chick-fil-A is supposed to be
Whataburger. Whataburger is a different beast,
Yeah.
and they don't really have them even in the northern states. They only have them in the southern states.
Yeah. I
And-
saw a few of them while I was in Texas.
Yeah,
We should go.
it's very
We're in
good.
Dallas, too.
You never
We were in
went?
Texas for 2 weeks. We never
I
went
think
to
we went
Whataburger.
3 times
Didn't
because it
want
was
to
so
go.
good.
Lots of barbecue.
Yeah, lots of barbecue.
Yes.
And a new good barbecue place here. Have you been to Bell's?
Yeah, on Narren?
Yeah.
Yeah. I took my wife there. We were at a ribbon cutting, and then we ended up there, and it was fantastic. It was really good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Today is.
I'm going to bring my own chair next time. So I
know you got to find a seat. I was
could not find
talking
one.
to one of the guys that works there today. He said they opened at 11 o'clock on Saturday. They were fully seated by 11:04.
Yeah.
And they didn't have an empty seat until 9 p.m.
That's insane. Yeah, no, we went
Till
there
10.
We went there 5 p.m. on a Saturday. I thought 5 p.m. is kind of early. Nope, could not find a seat.
Yeah, and they have the live music and
No, it's a great. I mean, I would love to see more restaurants or amenities like that here in our city where people can go have a good time. It's a little bit different than what they've, but
live music.
Live music.
Yeah.
I think Winnipeg does a great job in terms of the amount of restaurants that we have and the variety of restaurants.
Yeah.
I think we punch above our weight there.
Yeah, and we have some great entertainment
Yes.
that people don't really know about until they get here.
Yeah.
Within just the theater, the arts, everything else that goes on in Winnipeg. There's a lot to be proud of here.
There is.
And
I think we sell ourselves short. And I think, there was an announcement that the provincial government gave Tourism Winnipeg
Mhm.
$4.5 million.
Okay.
And
Yep.
they're going to increase advertising here. And as a matter of fact, I think from what I heard just today, the ad came out on April 1st.
Okay.
It was an April Fool's joke,
Oh,
but
right.
people loved it so much that they're actually going to go with it. So
That $4.5 million was a April 1st joke.
No, I think Tourism Manitoba came up with an ad about Manitoba that was a little tongue-in-cheek.
We'll have to find it then for sure.
Yeah.
The Manitoba Chamber announced that in their budget as well, I believe. So it was it's very exciting what they're trying to do. And the reason why I asked the question about the tariffs was, do you think, and I think the way I asked it probably just didn't come across, but can we be better because of this? Like that little brother that gets picked on by his big brother and then grows up to be stronger than his big brother, right? And plays football and,
Actually, can I just kind of change the question? Can Canada survive independently
Absolutely.
of the United States?
Absolutely. So, reducing interprovincial trade barriers is one of the options that we're looking at, as well as increasing markets, looking at new markets. So the provincial government is investing in the rail lines, and part of the reason why I was in Dallas, Texas, we have Centerport that is being developed.
Yeah.
So they showed us Burlington Northern Santa Fe line, which is a north-south route.
Yeah.
And their version of Centerport.
Mm-hmm.
45 million packages a year go through.
Crazy.
There. It's just so as you're driving up to it, there's an Amazon warehouse on either side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the footprint of Polar Park, if not bigger. 2 Amazon warehouses. That's how busy they are. Ross Perot bought farmland and developed a cargo airport. It's just cargo. Right. It's not passenger. And again, there's a plane leaving there every 30 seconds, so to speak.
Yeah.
So just shows you the volume of business that they have there. They get their sea cans from LA and from Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
They all come in by rail or by truck. They're picked and lifted and moved around, and that's what Centerport is going to be here. Right?
Yeah.
We're right in the middle of North America.
Yeah, and
East
that's
and
what
west,
it was supposed
north
to be
and
built
south,
at.
and that's.
So the argument against that is the United States has 10 times the population.
Yeah.
So to take something that they do in that population setting and bring it over here, sometimes you could argue is not realistic, but neither here nor there.
But it'll be a smaller scale than what I saw. But if we're half as efficient, we will do some good trade and commerce here in Manitoba. And again, the investments that the provincial government is making to northern routes will allow us to use the port of Hudson Bay for European markets.
And to eliminate the cross-provincial restrictions.
Yes.
Like that's the biggest thing too right now.
Well, and the premiers are working on reducing interprovincial trade barriers.
Yeah. So
all right, awesome. We actually had a bunch of other questions that we just didn't get a chance to, so maybe we'll have you back on. But we've taken, I think it's been
an hour or so far.
Minutes, so
it just flies.
I know. We don't want to take any more of your time, so we want to end up with a kind of a fun game. It's called This or That. Are you game for that?
Absolutely.
So This or That is a game that you literally pick one or the other, and you can either explain why you picked that answer. You can say go on to the next one, but there's a couple of rules. When you pick one, the other one goes away forever, doesn't exist.
Okay.
And you cannot pass.
Okay.
You cannot say neither. So we might have a couple.
And you can't insert your own answer.
Yeah, might have a couple of the names of your children in there. Your wife's name is there. And are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram.
Folklorama or Winnipeg Fringe Festival?
Folklorama.
Pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
Topping?
Ham and cheese. Or ham and pineapple. Sorry.
Okay, second straight
ham and pineapple.
Yeah. 2 straight guesses.
Yeah,
ham
2
pineapple.
Well, no.
Yeah, last one said ham and pineapple, didn't they?
Well, that was 2 guesses ago.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, I know what you mean.
Enough,
yeah. Okay. Expanding bike lanes or adding more public green spaces?
More public green spaces.
That's the right answer.
Yeah.
I really, truly think that would beautify a lot of places.
Beautify and help our environment as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Eventually too, right? Family Guy or The Simpsons?
Simpsons.
As you can see, we go
Old
all
school.
over the place with this. The Simpsons, though, is the right answer, I think, too. But I believe you like Family Guy.
Family Guy is funnier, but whatever.
Town hall meetings or neighborhood block parties?
Neighborhood block parties. It's about getting people together. I think we're in a society where you come home, you shut your door, and you're on your patio in your backyard and you don't reach out to meet your neighbors. I think we got to get to a place where we're meeting our neighbors, we're knowing who each other are, and we're looking out for one another. I fund block parties just for that purpose.
So, how can a neighborhood go about getting a block party approved with blockades so there's no street traffic? How do they go about doing that?
Just write to your city councilor.
And what if your city councilor doesn't respond?
Write to me.
Okay. You heard it.
You heard it
here first.
I will take it up with your city councilor.
Yeah.
No shade on my council colleagues, but I try to put myself out there and,
Well, you're deputy mayor.
Well, the other part of it though is that when the phone rings, I answer, and people say, "Is this the council?" I wasn't expecting to. Well, who did you call?
Yeah,
I called you. Well, I'm answering.
Yeah,
I forgot what I was going to say.
I'm so flustered that you answered the phone. I think the biggest thing is there's a lot of red tape.
Yeah,
right, to get certain things done. If I want to have a block party in my neighborhood, I don't know how to do it anymore. Whereas I grew up in a small town of Stonewall, just north of the city.
Yep.
And we had a block party every single year.
Yeah.
Every single year, the town of Stonewall would come in, put in the barricades. Nobody could drive in or out, and it was great.
Yeah.
Right. We've lost that community a little bit, and
I need it back.
And I think making it easier, even like let's say you go on to the City of Winnipeg website and it's got a block party application form, right? You fill that out and you say the dates that you're doing it, and then the barricades get delivered like the morning or the afternoon of, so that it's all blocked off. Super simple.
I will bring that up with our comms people.
Yeah,
because they're the ones that deal with the City of Winnipeg website.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I just thinking about block parties. I mean, when we were kids, we played hockey in the streets, right? And now it's too dangerous, right?
Yeah,
that's the premise.
Yeah.
Right? So I think I agree totally with what you're saying. Do you drink coffee?
I do.
Okay, just for coffee alone, Tim's, Starbucks, or McDonald's?
Tim's.
I like Tim's too. Go ahead.
Netflix or Disney Plus?
Netflix. Old school.
Old school.
Old school. Would you rather join me climbing a mountain or sit with Greg on a beach in a warm, hot day?
It's going to be Greg on a beach. I don't like heights.
All right.
Chocolate or chips?
I'm going to have to go chips, even though I like chocolate. I'm diabetic.
But you have to remember, you've already got pizza.
Yeah, chips are carbs.
Yeah, chips are carbs.
This argument. Chips are carbs.
I have too much of a sweet tooth.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to go chips.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And your flavor?
Salt and vinegar, but Miss Vicky's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I love the kettle crunch.
Watching live sports or live reality television?
Live sports.
Okay.
Yeah.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
That's right.
It's been like 7 weeks in a row.
I was on the other side of that before. And,
were you?
Yeah, I was a huge Android, but once I got my iPhone and my iPad and MacBook,
it all works together.
Well, you're also a Raider fan, so like you said earlier in the program, you make bad decisions.
It's like magic. I don't think you said that on the program. I think you said that off air. So,
is your turn or my turn?
It's your turn.
Canadian Museum or the Human Rights?
Canadian Museum for Human Rights.
Canadian Museum for Human Rights or the Leaf? Those are two different places. This is a
So
new question. That's why
I spent 10 years on the board of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. So it tugs at my heartstrings. I had a golf tournament that I raised money for the Human Rights Museum before it was built.
Right.
Ran that for 10 years, raised about over $150,000, which I'm very proud of.
So you're choosing a Leaf.
It's too hot. It's too hot.
Just the work that they do at the Canadian Museum. I'm not selling because I brought a group of seniors to the Leaf and they had a fantastic time.
Yep.
But I think the work that the Human Rights Museum does is intrinsically important.
Okay, you heard it first. The Leaf is terrible.
And we do.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Maple Leafs.
I'm just trying to put words in.
And we do pick some of these to make it very hard for you as a city representative.
About the Leaf?
I'm getting the body blows here.
Yeah. Winnipeg Jets or Winnipeg Blue Bombers?
I'm going to have to go with Blue Bombers.
Yeah. You got to go with history, right?
Yes.
Football guy, and there's something about being outside on a summer day, right?
Yes. It's probably because I mean, even as recently as November of last year, I played hockey,
Right.
with full equipment.
Right.
We played the MLAs in a game.
Yeah.
I got to, win a few draws.
We saw the videos.
Yeah. I won a few draws against Wob. But I really miss playing football.
Yeah.
The camaraderie in the dressing room with the guys, standing on the sidelines, watching a play. I miss football.
Well, you won the draws against Wob because you high sticked him.
Yeah.
And then you took the
Look
puck
at
away. A little dirty. All right. If you could have one superhero ability, would it be either invisibility or being able to fly?
Again, the heights thing, invisibility.
2 in a row. We had a big streak with flying, and nobody picked flying. Last two, yes. Invisibility.
This one will be another city related one. Kildonan Park or St. Vital Park?
St. Vital Park. That's in my neck of the woods.
Well,
Okay.
I'm going for a run on Saturday at Kildonan Park, and I guess it's gone. It just disappeared.
It just disappeared. It's gone.
I guess I got to change locations.
Extend the golf course there.
And the last question is Tim's.
Travel back in time 100 years into the past, back into the past, or 100 years
into the future.
future.
Wow. So with 100 years in the past, I can meet individuals that were part of history.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
100 years into the future, I can meet my descendants.
And you could win a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question. I would say 100 years into the past, I would like to meet some like Martin Luther King,
Mm-hmm.
Mahatma Gandhi. Well, he's probably a little bit older than that, but there's some very Nelson Mandela. There would be some interesting people I would love to meet and spend some time with. Just pick their brains. I guess 100 years in the future, it's people I haven't met yet. So
yeah, you have no context for that. All right, we have a couple of fun questions to end off, and then one more serious question. The top 3 places, it can be a restaurant, it can be a place to go, it doesn't matter, in Manitoba, that you love to go with your wife for date night.
So the Moon Drive-In, Half Moon Drive-In,
Yeah.
we do that once a year.
That's in Lockport, right?
That's in Lockport. Yeah, we go with another couple. The couple that we travel with on vacation, good friends of ours. We usually do like once a year, pick a nice Friday or Saturday evening during the summer, and we'll do the what do they call the burgers there? They have the shredded lettuce and the chili and the onions. And
Like a Fat Boy type of thing?
The Fat Boy, yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, you can taste it even a half hour after you've eaten. And
And
then the shakes are really good too. So I would say the Half Moon in Lockport.
Okay.
If it's in Winnipeg, just out Joey's or Earl's, with friends, is usually a good night.
If you had one choice to take your wife on a date, where would it be? Like just
Top
this.
one. Number
This is
one.
like price is
Number one.
no issue, or
you
have no time. You got to make up for lost days that you forgot your wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
So
where are you
one
taking her?
place.
Without any promises, she's always wanted to go to. So
Okay.
yeah, that's one place on this planet that I would take her.
You heard it here first. Next year.
Well, and again, with the opportunities that I've had, especially with my time with the provincial government, the provincial nominee program, again traveling to some of these exotic locations. I was Philippines 6-8 times, all through Europe, South America. So I think the only 2 continents that I haven't set foot on is Australia and Africa. Actually.
Oh, wow.
But at the end of a mission, if I was gone for 2 or 3 weeks, my wife would fly out and we would explore, or one of my sons would fly out and we would explore. So again, I've gone to some, Boracay in Philippines. Absolutely. It's kind of like being on Fantasy Island.
Yeah.
Right.
You get there by a little charter boat.
Yeah.
Very romantic,
Well, Tim's going to Africa next year, so if
What-
you want to go,
One of my possible 50th birthday trips is to Africa.
Which country?
Nairobi.
Oh, Kenya. Yeah.
Kenya,
Wow.
sorry.
Yeah.
You're right.
No.
Kenya is the country,
I know.
Nairobi is the city?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So a few years back, we celebrated our 25th anniversary in 2017.
Okay.
And we did Spain and Greece.
Yep.
When we got to Spain, they were going through secession, kind of like Quebec and Canada back in the day. The Catalans wanted to secede from Spain. There was massive, massive protests. And one day, everything was going to be closed.
Yeah.
No tourism, no shopping, anything. It was just a day of marches. So we decided, we were with our friends that we travel with, to go to Paris for the day. They had never been to Paris.
Right.
My wife and I had been several times. So we actually took them, and it was €49 from Spain, from Barcelona to Paris. Well,
on the train.
No, we flew.
Wow.
Oh, it was €49.
Yeah.
We flew to Beauvais, which is just an hour outside of Paris,
You drove in.
and took a bus into Paris. So we spent the entire day in Paris, flew back to Barcelona, went online, and for the same €49, could have gone to Monaco, not Monaco, it's a French-speaking country in Morocco, sorry. Right. Or to Alexandria to see the pyramids for the same €49. But we didn't have our shots, and you have to get your shots. Okay. But when you're in Europe, everything is just...
have you been to the pyramids?
No, I haven't. I haven't been to on the continent of Africa yet.
The craziest thing that I realized just like 2 months ago, if you look at a Google map of the pyramids, you can stay in a hotel in Egypt, and you can look out your window and see the pyramids. The city is so close to the pyramids. The pyramids are... It would be as if the pyramids were in Headingley. Oh. Right? And you were at the perimeter. Right. And the pyramids were in Headingley, and the perimeter was a giant hotel.
Oh, wow.
That's how close they are. And it's very interesting to see from... I thought they were in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well, in a desert somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So...
Are those the real pyramids or the fake ones?
The real. It's not, we're not in Vegas. It's not in Vegas.
I thought
that's not a real pyramid.
Another question we have for you is, if you could, and I'll go back to your question, because he already named a couple of people that have since passed, but any person alive, got to be alive, that you could choose to have a 20-minute conversation with today, anybody, who would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. Again, probably Barack Obama. He would be interesting to me. Just based on his experience, he was the first Black elected president. Yep. I was the first Black elected person in Manitoba.
Okay.
At any level of government.
So it'd be a great conversation.
It'd be a great conversation.
Yeah. That's a good answer. Yeah. Last question, and then you're off the hook. What is one piece of advice that you would give somebody that's coming out of high school right now? What would that one piece of advice that you give them?
I have to go back to giving back of your time. It's giving back. It's valuable. Your time is valuable. And when you give back and donate that time back to your community, it shows what kind of person you are. So kids out of high school, volunteer your time, give back to your community. You never know where it's going to lead you to. But I guarantee you will have a good time in meeting people who are like-minded. Yeah. And, you feel it, the satisfaction and joy of giving back to your community after doing so. And again, do it from the perspective that I'm doing it because this is what I want to do. Yeah. I'm not expecting anything out of it.
Yeah. You're doing it out of the goodness of your heart.
Selflessly.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's fantastic.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks so much for your time here. We really enjoyed our time speaking with you.
And I've enjoyed both of you guys. This has been fantastic.
We have to have you back on. There were so many questions that we didn't have a chance to get into.
We could get into a lot more stuff that we didn't get into, but yeah, we do appreciate it. And we know that your time is valuable. So thank you for accepting and for coming over here and chatting with us. We appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it. And I appreciate what you do for the city of Winnipeg. I mean, this is a great medium to just share information and entertainment. So
Awesome,
and I'm hoping I'm somewhat entertaining.
Yeah,
I can't juggle.
We'll see if we cut the whole interview.
we could cut the ums and ahs.
Not everybody gets on.
One
right
thing
now.
that I did notice though is that you're a very good public speaker, and this is we're kind of going a little bit long here on this, but was that taught? Was it learned, or was it just something that you picked up over time?
Father's a minister, mother's a minister. They have no problem speaking in public spaces, and I think education is the great equalizer as well. I mean, if you feel confident about how the topics you're speaking on, you can speak confidently.
Yeah, fantastic.
Awesome. Well, we'd like to invite everyone to share, subscribe,
like,
comment, all those things.
Hit the bell. We learned last week to hit the bell.
Yeah.
It's down here.
Zing.
So,
yeah. It's right there.
If you hit the bell, you get notified when we have new episodes. Yeah. Even that means Tim will even watch them.
So
I try not to.
I can listen to this on Spotify.
Absolutely. Every medium you could possibly listen on. Watch
Apple
on.
Podcasts, Spotify.
Yeah. There's really no excuses for anybody out there for not watching.
Yeah. Watching, listening, commenting.
So before you post it live, take out the so I can surprise my wife.
Okay, I'll bleep it. I'll bleep it.
Promise. Or
now I got to bleep it 3 times. Anyway, thanks for watching the Greg and Tim Show. Remember, every Monday at 7:30 a.m. is a new episode. So if you're new here, don't forget we have like 80 other episodes prior to this one, and you can check them out. It'll only take you
80
right
times.
now 3.5 days to watch all of them. So get watching, and we appreciate you for watching.
You binging.
Yeah,
why not?
Binge like Netflix.
Awesome.
YouTube doesn't have the.
Start
Are you
with
still
the
watching?
last ones and then move to the.
Yeah, don't go to the first ones. They're not very good. Have a great one. We'll see you soon.
Good day. Bye.
Thanks for watching the Greg and Tim Show podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your friends. Sharing is caring.